think the demon, that side of himself, is the most relatable, and so it's what's going to get things done.
All right, it is wonderful to be speaking today with Brina Palencia and Michael Tatum, the voices behind Black Butler. Thank you both for taking the time with me. I really do appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
It is such a fun show. It absolutely is. The journey of is it Ciel? Am I saying it right?
Yeah,
Ciel
yeah.
and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and Sebastian is just this season especially is just such a fun ride. What do you think it is about Black Butler that keeps the show intriguing to viewers?
Well, I think Yana Toboso has such a cool it's like a show of extremes. Like everything is she just goes so just dark and intense and just devastating, and then we'll do something in the same scene that will make you laugh out loud. Like it's just like you kind of get, it runs the gamut of everything. Sorry, my cat is very excited. This is not even my cat, it's my friend's cat.
I
But
can
yeah,
credit the
so
cat if you'd like. I can
yeah.
put it in.
But yeah, it's just, it has a little bit of everything. The animation is beautiful, the character designs are beautiful, it's extremely funny and also extremely devastating all at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. It's very rare for a show to be able to negotiate such incredible tonal shifts, but to pull them off.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is very dark and gothic, but it's also at times very silly, and yet somehow always very grounded in a weird
Yeah,
way that's kind of ineffable and hard to understand how they do it. But I suppose that's the genius of it.
yeah.
Um, and I think also I find CL to be a very relatable character, despite being in a place in life where most people can't relate to. Most of us aren't super rich.
Yeah. Or have
um,
pacts
or
with
or
demons.
yeah, or
Yeah,
have
that's
pacts
right.
with demons. you know but I think so CL's emotional pain and his experiences are one that I think resonate with a lot of people, and who wouldn't want a Sebastian in their life? Like, who wouldn't want a demon butler that's like has to do whatever you tell him regardless, and who will do it amazing with such style, all while kind of winking at you and making you feel lesser than.
Like in this way, when he, without saying too much, when he cleans the dining room, I was like,
Yes.
That's
he showed him up for no
hilarious.
reason.
It's
Um,
just, it was such an offhanded gesture to. He was like, "All right, I'll just do it so perfectly that you're going to get all the praise for it," and it's hilarious. Yeah.
I love that you're talking about the shift in dynamics because there's so much going on within this show. There's the heavy element of mystery. There's this gothic feel, and much of the series is based around a cricket match, which takes 2 or 3 episodes as well, which is somehow even heavy in moments as well. There's intensity and emotion. But it is based on this relationship between these two characters. And I was wondering for you both, like, what is it about the relationship between Ciel and Sebastian that makes it work? It's not just a butler. I mean, this is a demon butler as well. So this is a little bit of a different experience.
Well, I think to me, Sebastian is the only, well, for lack of a better word, only person that Ciel can trust, and isn't even a person, is a demon. But just after all of the trauma that he experienced, Sebastian is all he has, you know? Um, he doesn't have faith in humanity. He doesn't believe in others. He just kind of is trying to exact his revenge and try to deal with his trauma the best way he knows how.
Yeah.
And that just happens to involve demon. And if you were a child who was left completely alone and had no one, and was severely abused, you're gonna very easily latch on to someone who is helping you achieve the goals that you want and who is essentially kind of literally doing everything you tell them to do. I mean, that's, I don't, any kid would like that,
Right.
as Michael said, any human would like that, but especially a kid who is as traumatized as Ciel.
And I 100%, Brina, I think, but and what adds to the psychological depth of that relationship is the fact that there's a side of CL that needs to be cynical. It is a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
His cynicism is 100% understandable under the circumstances, but he needs that. He needs, has to be careful about who he puts his faith in, what he believes in, what he lets himself be vulnerable with. And I think what drives the relationship, you make a good point that Sebastian is like the only, presence in his life that he can count on, but he can allow himself some emotional distance because he can always remind himself Sebastian's just a demon who's doing this for his own selfish reasons.
Right. He
And
doesn't have
so
to get
it
scared of
allows
that
him
connection.
to
Yeah.
let that relationship be possible, which is a really fascinating psychological dimension to it that I don't think you know, uh, it's something that you don't see in a lot of shows. That the relationship is not as straightforward as it may seem. Like I base so much of my how I view Sebastian as kind of this non-entity in terms of however he is when he's not Sebastian. Who knows? He's a demon. Who knows what his true form is? We never really get to see it. Even when it's hinted at, it could be that he's just taking on a form that reflects the fears of the person he's assuming it to. But I think his persona as Sebastian, as this eminently capable butler, is a persona that he's adopted, that is a reflection of CL's unconscious. It's a projection of CL's. He exists independently of it, but at the same time, he's wrapped in this cloak that CL's unconscious has given him, and so he's a capable father figure in many ways, a mentor, but that CL can still be cynical about the relationship with to protect himself, to be like, oh, I can rely on him, but of course I can. He gets my soul at the end of it. And that's just a fascinating dynamic that there's so much you can do with that, and they do all the time in the show, and I
Yeah.
think that's why it's got such longevity.
And I couldn't help but thinking of this while I was watching it. So many times when we see in films and other series, without getting specifics or anything, it doesn't matter, but we talk about dealing with our demons, our
Mm,
metaphorical demons. We talk
mm,
about
mm.
letting them go. But it's interesting that this show, and I wondered your thoughts on this, the idea of getting our quote unquote demons to work for us as motivation is an interesting idea.
Well, yeah, he really leans into the, the parts of himself. Like, I feel that he latches on to the emotion of anger as a coping mechanism, that like anger and hatred and whatever. He even says, in the first season, like that's what makes him who he is.
Mm.
When in reality, now as more of an adult, and sorry, that cat is knocking stuff over. Just a chaos gremlin in the room.
I should have brought my dogs. It would have been
I
great.
know.
We had a party.
Put
But
it to
so
work. Put it to work. Tell
yeah.
Cat Butler is
But
the new season.
I am very distracted by your kitten. I'm just saying,
sorry.
as Sebastian's actor, I cannot focus now because the cat is really stealing focus.
It's true. He's very cute. But yeah, so like as we know as adults, and especially since I've gone through therapy, I know that anger is just a disguise for trauma, or for trauma, for grief. And Ciel has had a lot of loss in his life, and he has a lot that he needs to grieve, but that he doesn't know how. So he has to lean into his demons, and that's where he finds comfort. Because for one, he for now can control his actual demon, and the anger helps him suppress all of the other emotions that he doesn't have the skill set to know how to deal with.
It's interesting too that in historically the concept of demons has only become one that's associated with evil and negativity in the past few hundred years. And to the ancient Greeks, for example, the demon was just a sort of air spirit that was often associated with a person's fate, and it was kind of morally ambivalent, but it was attached to a person. It was like a familiar, much like Brina's cat there.
Yeah.
Um, and it could be evil if you were straying from your destiny, and then its job was to badger you back onto the right path. So you hear of, like, philosophers like Plato and Aristotle talk about their demon or their daemon, and that's interesting. But it comes to, we're talking about demons and this dark side, and how CL really has to lean into that. I think the demon that side of himself is the most relatable, and so it's what's going to get things done. It's the tool that seems the most obvious to him. And I think that's interesting. It plays into this Jungian idea that the only way to become a fully integrated human being is to explore your shadow side and to weave that into your sense of self, rather than putting it away and pretending it doesn't exist, because it tends to just come back with a far more ferocious visage that does a lot more damage to you personally, because you think of it as separate and you often project it onto other people. At least in Jungian terms. And I think it's an interesting exploration of that they have the relationship they do in the show, because, clearly Ciel has made peace with his demon and is putting his demon to
Well,
work.
it's funny when you think of it in that light too, because it's essentially he's doing the opposite of what most people do, is that he's only doing shadow work. He's not working on any of the joyful.
He's overcorrecting, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not accepting joy or trust or hope. Those things are like, no, I'm not going to mess with that. I am only doing shadow work.
Yeah, and that can happen. That's another thing. That's not true integration. It's overcorrection, where you're like, I'm gonna be, and we've all been there, especially when we're in negative circumstances. It's all too easy sometimes to embrace the dark side of yourself at the expense of everything else that also needs a voice. But yeah, isn't it fascinating? We could talk about this show in these terms, and it totally lands, because that's kind of what we're dealing in.
That's the depth of it. It's a very there's so much depth to this show, and I love that it's able to go that hard. And then at the same time is kind of also the silliest show. There's so many silly, funny, fun moments, especially in the public school arc. That just, I don't know. It's like it gives it a levity so that you're able to digest the more intense parts of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a balance, such a unique balance. And it's like, and you talk about him leaning into his dark side. He's doing good things with it. Like, it's interesting. He's not, he's doing as best he can. It's a fascinating, and like I said, there's so much. Like, I like that you bring up the humor, because it is a fun show. Like, it's not just 8 episodes of trauma. Like, there's a lot of joy in the series, which and intrigue, and sort of, this is how we did this, sort of. There are moments of it I almost felt like I was watching Ocean's 11, because it's sort of like, we did this thing, and now let's rewind the tape, and now we showed you how we did it, and I was like, oh, that was really great. I know we're running out of time. I'm so grateful for the chance to speak with you both, and just as we close, I'm just wondering which house you would put yourself in. I'm sure I'm not the first to ask, but I really was curious.
I think I would definitely be Purple House.
I think I would be Blue House with Sapphire.
You absolutely would. You'd be Blue
and
House,
not least which, because my husband plays Bluer, so I know where my loyalties lie.
That's it. That's where it comes down to, right? Is this you get in trouble if you don't.
Right, it's a little nepotism there, but hey, if I'm trying to get into school, I gotta, whatever is available to me, I gotta use.
It's true.
That's what gets you to Drudge. That's what as a Drudge.
Yes.
Drudge. Yeah.
Honestly, thank you so much, Brina, Michael. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. The show's great.
Our pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.